They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. They probably think I'm rolling, I ain't on nothing. But what I got you need to know about, cause homie, I'm turned. 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 I'm turned.
Is patience. Has anybody ever heard a saying from your mom, dad, grandma, whatever? Patience is a virtue. Has anybody ever heard that? A few of us, two of us. All right, cool. So we got a lot of impatient people in here, is what I'm thinking. Well, I used to hear that a lot growing up, and it is very true, as I have come to find out over the years. But does anybody in here struggle with their patience? I know I'm in there with you. I know I see that back there. He's smiling. A lot of us struggle with this thing called patience. We get mad at the drop of a hat, and we don't like to put up with a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of things in life that cause this patience level to dwindle. School, I know that's a big one for me. My patience level is not very high with school. Driving. Do we have any road rage people in here? Yeah, right? Okay. I'm in the same boat. Sports. Oh, patience level very low right there. And honestly, just people in general. There's some people that just don't like people, you know?
Yeah.
Just can't stand the thought. There we go. Hands and feet. She's serious with it. Oh, especially, here's a good one. Here's a good one. Professors who don't email back in a solid amount of time. And, you know, you email them a question about a paper or something. 4 weeks later, after you've already received a grade and got a D, you're like, well, you could have done this better. Well, good. I love the input before I turn it in. So there's a lot of things that push this patience that we are trying to have. And, you know, in the world we live in today, I don't want to say it's not our fault, because it is in a way, but the way we were raised and the culture we're brought up in, we're consumer driven, and, you know, everything in our world is fast-paced. Everything. And whatever we want it now. We want it now. We don't like things to be slow and to test our patience. For example, internet. LMU's internet does a fantastic job of this for me. I'll be working on a test on Blackboard or something, internet just drops out for no reason.
Yeah.
And then here I am stuck. So internet's one. We want it to be fast. When it doesn't work, we get angry. Another thing, fast food. Have y'all ever been to a fast food joint that is called fast food, but nowhere near holding up to its title? I was sitting at Hardee's one day, ordered a chicken sandwich. Mm-hmm. So all I wanted was a chicken sandwich. Hardee's supposed to be fast food. I waited 20 minutes for a chicken sandwich. I'm like, dang, I should have just went to the farm down the road and killed a chicken myself. It would have been quicker. Okay, testing that patience level. We even have TiVo. We record shows just so we can skip through the commercials because we don't feel like sitting through a commercial. My parents, I know this is on tape, so this may come back to bite me. My parents, they will get up and they will pause a commercial. As soon as the show goes off in the commercial, they will pause it, get up, go do something else, and then come back and then fast forward through the commercials just to get back to the show. I'm like, what is the difference? You could have just sat there. So the patience level in our society, it's not in our favor because we want answers fast. I'm going to show you a little video clip of typically how we tend to respond when somebody pushes our patience level because we want answers fast.
Next.
Yeah.
Next. Okay.
There we go.
No, oh, you're giving it all away, Johnny. Oh my God.
Okay, so that is how we are a lot of times. We are so impatient when somebody's not giving us their fullest attention or something. We're working in our favor. We're like, come on, mom. I know you have probably done that a million times growing up, and your mom probably had the same exact reaction. And just like Lois in that situation, when our patience level is pushed to the limit, we usually react, don't you? When somebody pulls out in front of you trying to go to Middlesboro, you usually get pretty mad, don't you? Get pretty furious. Your patience level is not very high with that person. So when it is tested, we tend to get angry, just like our next video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bam!
So we tend to get angry sometimes when our patience level is pushed to the limit. So tonight, we're going to look at a story in the Bible over Lazarus. And we're going to look at the aspect of, we have all these things in our life that test our patience, such as school and people on the road and sports. But sometimes we've got to look outside of the box, and sometimes it may be God testing your patience. So that's what we're going to look at tonight. We're going to be in the book of John. If you have Bible, iPad, iPod, iPhone, 3 through 5, it don't matter. Whatever you got, it's got a Bible on it. We're going to be in John chapter 11, verses 1 through 46, and I am going to run through these verses real quick. And I can't read fast, so if I mess up, just follow along and know what I missed.
Hey, Hooked on Phonics worked for me.
Hooked on Phonics did a good job for me, all right?
Yeah.
Let's roll. Verse 1. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, now the town of Mary and her sister, Martha. It was that Mary who had anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sisters sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, Let us go to Judea, See, that's what I get.
I know.
Let us go to Judea again. The disciples said to him, Rabbi, lately the Jews sought to stone you, and are you going to go there again? Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. These things he said, and after he said to them, Our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I go that I may wake him up. Then his disciples said, Lord, if he sleeps, he will get well. However, Jesus spoke of this death, but they thought that he was speaking about sleeping. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead, and I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go to him. Then Thomas, who was called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us go also, that we may die with him. So when Jesus came, he found out that he had already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away. And many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Now Martha, as soon as she had heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, and Mary was sitting in the house. Now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give to you. Jesus said to her, Your brother will rise again. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he may die, he shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is to come into the world. And when she had said these things, she went away and secretly called to Mary, her sister, saying, The teacher has come and is calling for you. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were with her in the house and comforting her, when they saw that Mary rose up quickly and went out, followed her, saying, She is going to the tomb to weep there. Then when Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet and sang to him, Lord, if you had only been here, my brother would not have died. Therefore, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, See how he loved him. And then some said, Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead for 4 days. Jesus said to her, Did I not say to you, that if you would believe, you would see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me, and I know that you always hear me. But because of the people who are standing by, I say this, that they may believe that you sent me. Now when he had said these things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he who had died came out, bound hand and foot with grave cloths, and his face was wrapped up with a cloth. Jesus said to him, Loosen him and let him go. Man, I'm about to pass out.
Yeah.
I got a lot here that ain't a lot. Out shake. You feel me?
Yeah.
Ouch. Anyway, what I'm going to do real quick, I'm just going to run through there. And I would encourage you, if you can, when you get back, go back through and read this. There's so much stuff in this passage. So much stuff. So I would encourage you to go back and read it if you get the chance. But I'm just going to go through and touch on some things that God spoke to me as I went through this. First thing, I want to notice how the sisters notified Jesus in verse 3. We noticed that when they called to Jesus, they didn't say, Hey Jesus, this is what you need to do. My brother is dead. You need to get over here, walk up in the tomb, slap him on the face, and say, Get on up. Notice they didn't do that. They didn't tell Jesus what to do. All they did was they said, Jesus, my brother is sick. My brother is dying. All they did was they let Jesus know their need. They didn't tell him what to do. Secondly, we notice the disciples' attitudes versus Jesus' attitude in verse 9. You see, the disciples were super scared because, see, this is right. When Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead, this was one of the final miracles, biggest miracles anyways, that he did right before he was crucified. And in chapter 10, right before this, he about got stoned to death by a bunch of Pharisees. So this is a real anti-time right now for Jesus. So the disciples are freaking out. They're like, Jesus, I don't know why you want to go and do this. You're powerful enough to just give the word and him be healed and him be alive or come back, whatever. Your words are powerful enough to do that. Why do we got to travel to Bethany? Do you not realize you could die? And one thing I thought was amazing about this is the fact that Jesus was not scared to enter the danger zone. He was not scared to go where he might die because he knew that he was the one that was going to bring life and bring glory to his Father. So he wasn't scared to go where he may die in order so that he could bring life. Because what scares us, what scared the disciples, that doesn't intimidate Jesus. Jesus is not intimidated by your screw-ups or what goes on or what your downfalls may be or how nasty and dirty your past is. Jesus is not scared of that. Jesus is saying, I'm going to go to wherever it takes, do whatever is needed in order to bring life and receive the glory. And then we look at verse 6 and verse 15, and I was reading it, it's like, man, does God even care? Does Jesus even care? I mean, it says that, he loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus, but by reading the text, you're like, man, it doesn't seem that Jesus even gives a crap. Like he could care less that this dude is sick and is dying. First of all, in verse 6, he waited for 2 extra days. I mean, really, if you supposedly love this person, and there were messengers that were sent to you, and they were saying, listen, Lazarus is sick. The one you love is sick. And Jesus sent word back, but then he's like, all right, we're going to chill out for another 2 days. That's crazy. I mean, if your mom or dad or somebody that you hold really close, that you hold in high esteem, got ill or got in a tragic accident, you would probably push some things aside to go be with them, wouldn't you? I know I would. Mom, dad, whatever. I don't care what my schedule is like. It's getting scratched because I love them and I care for them. So I'm going to be with them because they are sick or injured or whatever. So we look at this and it's like, what are you doing, Jesus? Do you even care? You got news that the person you love is sick and you're hanging out for 2 more days? That's crazy. And then secondly, he said, I'm glad that I wasn't there when he got sick.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic. I mean, seriously? You love this person. Number one, you're like, hey, he's sick, he's dying. Like, okay, we'll chill for a couple of days. We'll see how it plays out. Number two, I'm glad I wasn't even there. Crazy, man. But the thing is, Jesus was glad he wasn't with them because he loved Mary, he loved Martha, and he loved Lazarus. And the thing is, if Jesus would have been there, he could have possibly been swayed by Mary or Martha in preventing the death and healing him before he even got sick, or healing him as he was sick so that he would not die. And that would take away from what was about to happen, and it would take away from the glory that God was going to receive, because Jesus does not operate on our timeline. I know we have schedules, we have plans, but I'm going to tell you right now, Jesus does not operate on the same timeline. Not even close, because we are finite beings and he is infinite. So he does not have the same timeline. And you see, he knew that what he would do would be much greater. What he would do for Lazarus, what he would do for Mary, what he would do for Martha would be much greater than just healing his sickness or preventing him from getting sick. When we move down to John 11, verses 17 through 32, we notice Martha's attitude. Okay? And in verse 21, it says, now Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Okay? I'm going to show you a little video right here. This is how I imagine Martha's face when she's seen Jesus coming down the road finally after 3 days of chilling. As a face to say you ain't got nothing left. So that's how I pictured Martha in my head. You know, her brother is sick, and Jesus knows this. I mean, the messengers told him, and then he still waited these X amount of days, 3 days, before he showed up. And then here he comes walking down the road. I just imagine Martha going, you know, like, okay, about time. It's about time you showed up. That's where I got the time, in case y'all didn't know. It's about time you showed up. But what we see in her statement is that she expressed faith and weakness when she talked to Jesus, because she said, Lord, if you had been here, saying that, God, I know that you can heal. I know that you can do this. But her weakness when she's saying, my brother would not have died. So she knew that Jesus could have healed her brother. But in her weakness, she's saying, God, you weren't here though, Jesus. You weren't here in time to do anything. But Jesus responded to her and he said, I am the resurrection and life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this? She said, yeah. And then we notice her sister. She goes and gets her sister. Says it secretly. And she comes to her, Mary comes to Jesus, and she has the same response. Lord, if you would have been here, my brother wouldn't have died. If you would have just came on time, my brother would not be laying in that grave right now. And see, it was the same exact response that Martha had. Because they probably were communicating. Just like we do in life sometimes. when we feel like God's timing is not correct, when God's not showing up when we think He ought to show up. We want to talk to people because we have our own agenda. We feel like we have our own timeline, and that's what we want to share with people. Man, I need to do this. I need this to happen by this date, or this ain't going to happen. We got to quit putting God on our level. He is way higher than that. And you see, she could have had a bad attitude. Mary and Martha could have had a bad attitude and said, it's about time. Kick a little dirt on the sandals, you know what I'm saying? They could have had a bad attitude, but they didn't. They could have easily been mad at Jesus. And I don't know about you, and you don't have to raise your hands, but I'm going to tell you, I've been mad at God before. You may be able to sit there and say, you know what? I have been mad at God. And it's okay, some people are like, well, you shouldn't tell God that you're mad at Him. He knows everything anyways. That's like Adam and Eve walking around naked. Yeah. Listen, don't you dare tell God you took a bite of that apple. Okay? Walking around like this. Don't you dare tell God you took a bite of that apple. It's crazy. It's okay. We have, it's okay. It's okay to say, yeah, I've been mad at God. Because, earlier in chapter 4 in the book of John, we see a story of the nobleman's son. And I forget which verse it is, but it's in chapter 4. It says, the official said to him, "Sir, come down before my child dies." Jesus said to him, "Go, your son will live." The man believed the word that Jesus spoke to him and went on his way. As he was going down, his servants met him and told him that his son was recovering. So when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, Mary, Martha, you have every right to be mad at God. Look, earlier in the book of John, all Jesus had to do was say, "Go, your son is healed." God, why couldn't you have done that for me? You didn't even know the nobleman, but you say you love me. All you had to do was say, "Listen, be healed, get up and walk." But you didn't. You didn't even show up. You didn't even bother to show up on time. They had every right to be mad at Jesus, but they didn't. And this is us in so many cases. We've got our timeline. We've got our agenda. And when something goes wrong and something bad happens, like, God, where were you? Where were you? You didn't even bother to show up. You say that you love me. You say that you care for me, but you didn't even bother to show up on time. But then we move down to verses 33 through 46. I promise I'm closing. We're at 23 minutes. About to start dancing, son. Anyway, we see the human side of Jesus. We see that He is fully God, and we see that He is fully man. Because we notice His emotions. It says Jesus was deeply moved in the Spirit. And then my favorite Bible verse, because I've had it memorized for so long, verse 35. Jesus wept. Ooh, 2 words. Shortest verse in the Bible. Listen, if y'all want to start memorizing Scripture, start with that. Jesus wept. I'm sure you've already got it memorized by now. Anyways, we see His emotions. We see that He was deeply moved, and we see that He was fully human. We see that He knew the emotions. So this is the first aspect of us seeing that Jesus is a personable God. He's a personal God because He knows that emotion that Mary and Martha are going through. He feels that. Jesus wept over this. And I almost want to venture to say that Jesus wept because He knew that if He brought Lazarus back from the dead, that He was going to have to pull him out of heaven and bring him back to this sinful earth. But besides that, Jesus was deeply moved. So we see that He has emotions, that He is fully human, but He is fully God. So He knows where they're coming from. Not only that, one thing I love about Jesus, He has a great way of silencing the haters. I love it. A lot of times, if you go through the Gospels, Jesus has a great way of silencing the haters. Because in 37, I believe, it says, and some of them said, "Could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind also have kept this man from dying?" So you've got all these people around. Jesus is, weeping. He's deeply moved. He's struggling with this just like everybody else is. And all these people are like, man, you did this, you did that. Why couldn't you have brought him back from the dead? Why couldn't you have prevented this from happening? But I want to give you something very deep right now. Okay? You're going to get your notes section open because this is about to blow your mind. I'm just kidding. It's not that deep, but it's really cool and it rhymes. So, Jesus gave me this. When the enemy starts attacking you, you say, listen, and when you got all these people around you telling you that you can't do this, your God can't do that, Jesus can't do this, you say, listen, hate is going to hate. Repeat it after me. Hate is going to hate.
Hate is gonna hate.
Until Jesus makes them appreciate.
Makes him appreciate.
There we go. Hate is going to hate until Jesus makes them appreciate.
I like it.
You like it? I can get it tatted on my neck.
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing. Anyways, so Jesus is about to silence the haters every minute. And another thing we notice is that Jesus didn't roll the stone away himself, which is odd because you're thinking, man, the same dude that had enough power to say, your son has been healed and not even lay hands on him, why is he asking other people to roll away the stone? That seems crazy. And I thought it was crazy too, but he told Martha to. He told her to put her faith into action by moving away that stone. And this will probably be one of the very few times you hear me quote from the King James Bible. But it is just so awesome because in my Bible, it says, Martha, the sister of him who was dead, said to him, Lord, by this time there is a stench, for he has been dead 4 days. King James Version says, by this time he stinketh. I love it.
Yeah.
So she's saying, God, listen, Jesus, by this time he stinketh. I love it. That's so much more emphasis to the stench, stinketh. But so we're sitting there, why did he make Martha move that stone away? Because he wanted people to see the body. He wanted people to see the death. He wanted people not only to see it, but he wanted them to smell the stinketh. He wanted them to smell the stench of what death was like. But he did this because he also wanted to show these people, all of these Jewish people and Mary and Martha, who gives life. He wanted them to see death, to smell it, to get as close as they can to it, so he could turn around and say, listen, that's what death is like.
That's good.
But I come here to bring you life. I come here to bring new life, and I'm the one who gives life. And what we see here is we see that Jesus calls the dead to life. He tells Lazarus, come forth. And how did he do it? We see that he did it by name. Because you know what's funny? What I was thinking about? If Jesus wouldn't have said, Lazarus, come forth. If he would have just said, come forth, it would have looked like The Walking Dead. Because you'd have had, who knows? Because usually the tombs, they would build them to hold a family. And so you could have 23 people coming out. So we see that he called them out by a name. So what does that tell us? That he is personal God. He sees you in your situation. He sees you where you're at. And he calls you by name. And see, these tombs, they were cut out into the side of a mountain. Most of these tombs were cut out on the side of a mountain. And they were usually 10 to 15 feet deep. Because they were usually built for families. And it says in the scripture that Lazarus was wrapped from head to toe, even his face covered. And when you see that, just think of a mummy. I mean, they had these dudes wrapped up completely. So, when we read this, we notice that he doesn't have his grave clothes stripped off of him until he reaches the entrance of the tomb. So what that means is that when God said, Lazarus, come forth, that God's power had to carry him to that entrance. Because there was no way that he could walk because he was bound up. So God's power had to carry him. I'm going to ask the praise team to come up and play. And in closing, I want y'all to know that patience is a virtue. It is a virtue. And I don't know where you're at right now, but maybe you feel like Mary and Martha. Maybe you feel stuck in a situation. And you feel like God's not anywhere around. You feel like Jesus is nowhere to be found. You feel like that Jesus is just hanging out while you're sitting here in misery. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, God is trying to test and strengthen your faith and your patience. Just maybe. And you see, when Jesus responded back to Mary and Martha, he said, this sickness is not to end in death, but for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified by it. Jesus was saying, listen, take heed to my word. I have said this, so you need to trust in it. Be encouraged by it. Because no matter how bad your circumstances may appear right now, I want you to lean on what I've said. And know that I am good and that I'm going to fulfill it. And that this will not end in death, but in the glorification of my Father. Sometimes we just want to get mad. We want to throw a chair, get mad and just give up on God. Because that's the easy way out. Say, God, I'm done. You don't care about me. I'm sitting here stuck and you don't care about me. But don't give up. Because see, Martha and Mary, they knew that Jesus had the power to heal Lazarus. They knew that. But I'll tell you one thing. They were worried about him being sick. Saying, I want you to heal my brother from his sickness. But what they didn't know is that Jesus said, no, I don't want to heal him from his sickness. I want to bring him back to life. I want to do more than what you think. I want to do more than what you can imagine. I want to bring him back to life. I don't want to just heal him from being sick. You see, like I said before, our timing and his timing are completely different. Because Jesus, he could have prevented Lazarus from dying, but he didn't. He didn't. And you may think that Jesus' behavior didn't match up with his love for Lazarus, but it did. Because when we look at it, he's saying, listen, I know your circumstances. I see where you're at, and I know it sucks right now. But keep pressing forward, keep enduring, because I have something so much better for you. I know you're sick, and I know you're struggling, and I know you're on the point of breaking, and I know that you are about to die. But listen, once your brother dies, once Lazarus passes away, I'm going to bring him back to life. My plan is so much greater than your circumstances right now. I have so much more planned for you. He wants more for you. But we see just God's love in action. You know, he didn't prevent him from dying. But what we see is that God's love for you, Jesus' love for you, is not a pampering love. It's not a pampering love that say, here, be carefree, do what you want. I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to turn you into a spoiled child. It's not a pampering love. It's a perfecting love. It's a love that's saying, listen, I know it sucks. I know you're struggling. I know you want to give up and quit and get mad and leave. But listen, I'm perfecting you. I'm working on you. Keep pushing forward. Keep persevering. Because see, God's love doesn't guarantee that we will be sheltered from all the pain and the crap that we got to go through in this life. Because you know why? All of that stuff formulates a beautiful master plan that God has for you. So keep pressing in and keep being patient. Wait on the Lord. Serve him while you are waiting. So I can promise you this, God wants something more for you. Keep pressing forward. Don't get mad. Don't quit. Don't give up. God wants something greater for you than where you're at right now. You see, maybe you are in the Martha. Maybe you're at a point where you're stagnant, you're stuck, and you're mad. God, I've been sitting here, wasting away, waiting on you, and you don't even bother to show up. You say that you love me. You say that you love me, but you don't even plan to show up on time. You're going to let me sit here and be miserable. Maybe that's you today. Maybe you're in the same boat as Lazarus. Maybe you're saying, listen, I'm dead, God. I'm dead. I need you to bring me to life. I need you to carry me to the entrance of that tomb. Tell me to take those grave clothes off and to walk. Because this life is not always going to be easy. Because although God loves you and God has a plan for you, it doesn't mean that it will be easy, because God loved Jesus. He loved him with all his heart, but that did not keep him from permitting Jesus to walk up Calvary with a cross on his back, to die for everybody, to take that weight of sin, to be disconnected from the Father for the first time in eternity. And the only time he was disconnected from his eternal Father, because he took what we had to bear. He took our sins, so that whenever you're struggling and wherever you're at right now, he did that just so he could bring us back to life. Just so that he could say, listen, I've got more for you. There's more where that comes from. Just wait, just hold on one more minute. Hold on 1 second. Hold on a few more days. I'm coming, I promise. But listen, don't grow weary, because you're about to break through. And gosh, you won't even be able to contain it. I'm going to pray. If you have anything you're dealing with, if you feel like you're stuck,